It originates from a Patricia Highsmith novel called The Price of Salt originally, and then renamed Carol, about following the lives of two women, but really seen through the prism of the eyes of a young woman called Therese, who in the book is a set designer, who has a relationship with a young man, but is in the process of finding out who she is, really, and trusting her own feelings, and sort of idolises and then falls in love with a woman called Carol Aird, who I play, who's in the process of getting divorced, has a young child, and obviously because it's set in the 50s, it's incredibly difficult terrain for the two women to connect and ultimately to consummate and live with their love. I'd read the book a long time ago. I was fortunate enough to be in a film which Anthony Minghella directed of The Talented Mr. Ripley years ago. And so I'd read a lot of Patricia Highsmith then and was really struck by the power, the emotional power of the novel, and how bold it was for the time in which it was written. It wasn't written in code, which a lot of those relationships were sort of encoded. But I think the gift of working on something based on a Patricia Highsmith story is that the interior life of the characters is so rich, and she's masterful at dealing with characters who and acknowledging in a way that every adult has a secret, and she sets them in the time that she was writing, obviously in the 50s, when it was very, very difficult and nigh and impossible to trust people with those secrets. And that doesn't necessarily have to do with people's sexuality, but in this case, in Carol, it does. The Price of Salt, when it was first written, was the first of the so-called gay lesbian fiction where there was a happy ending, where one of the characters didn't find the love of a good man or a good woman and reconvert into sort of heterosexual society or kill themselves. It actually has a positive uplift at the end of it. Carol is a shadowy character, subjectively seen through Therese's lens in the novel, and I think the challenge that Phyllis has risen to and achieved beyond my wildest expectations was by bringing Carol to life on the page and giving her her own heartbeat, not only through the person that Therese thinks Carol is, but who she might possibly be. And so therefore there's a lot of invention. There's a lot of references made to lawyers' meetings and all of those stuffs, but Phyllis has actually brought that to life with a real passionate but quiet dignity. Who is Carol? I think Carol, in a way, is she's someone with an incredible sense of pride and is intelligent and sensitive and aware enough to know the way the world works, and that she doesn't fit within that world. But I think she thinks she's found a way to operate that's intensely lonely, I think. I think it takes them both by surprise. There's a line or a description in the novel that Therese says is that she feels that her feelings for Carol are what she would have thought she'd characterise as being love. And she's heard of women who feel that way about other women, but she feels she doesn't look like those women, whatever that may be. She doesn't fit neither of them fit neatly into a niche or a movement or a social circle or in that time an underground movement, because of course those bars existed, the literature, the magazines, those connections absolutely existed, they always have, but it was a subculture, and so I don't think Carol or Therese have access to the language to describe those feelings or those relationships or the hopes and aspirations for those feelings in the way that we do now. But so I think they're both ambushed by their the intensity of the connection with each other, and see it specifically about that other person rather than fitting into a larger group. She's fantastic. I mean, we'd both worked with David Fincher and Steven Soderbergh and had fantastic experiences, and I knew how much both those men, who I intensely respect and adore Rooney, so I knew it was going to be great. But just how great and how open and how free and how she's just not fazed by anything, and really even, in terms of her temperament on set, but then where she can go, emotionally and physically and psychologically. It's sort of that it really belies that ability. We'd actually done a couple of days together on a Terrence Malick film in Austin 2 years ago, a year ago. So that was great. This is a very different endeavour. He's gorgeous and so funny and so generous. And he's a modern man, but he looks he's such a man. Not a lot of men in cinema, but he's a man, and one with such heart, and he, and is not so full of ego that he can't be broken or fragile or full of shame, all of those things which Harge is, experiencing. So it's great to work with him again for a longer period. He loves Carol deeply and Carol loves him deeply, but it just hasn't worked. And he's trying to put Band-Aids on it so that he doesn't have to lose face with his family or lose face with himself or lose face at work. And they're all very human, relatable, understandable feelings that he's experiencing. And there's all sorts of reasons why this shouldn't happen. And Carol, she's had a child, she's been in a relationship, she's been out of a relationship, she's had fallen in love with a woman. I mean, she's had many, many experiences that Therese, simply by the product of her age and her own environment, hasn't been through. So I think that Carol thinks it's if I fall headlong into this, I'm going to be falling in a different way than a girl who is much younger than me. Because when you fall in love for the second time, and perhaps more profoundly the second time, you know what you're risking, and so therefore you know what you're in danger of losing. And I think that there's a kind of a melancholy, a wistfulness, a different sense of apprehension that Therese just doesn't have or understand, but perhaps by the end of the film she understands that loss, and which makes the potential of their love in the future, I think, even richer. What seems a ridiculous and obvious thing to say about a filmmaker, but he's so intensely visual. And the references that he brought to bear on this, I mean, he's made films about sort of people who are on the outside or people who think differently to the mainstream in one way or another, but he's treading visual terrain here that I've never seen him tread. It's so a whole lot of reflections. So you see the characters actually often recede within the reflection of the society in which they're inhabiting, the taxis going by, the cabs, the passers-by. So it's a very subtle, delicate aesthetic that he's working with. But he's so buoyant and so full of feeling and good humour and generous to a fault, you know, to everyone on set. He's so wonderful to work with.